Welcome back to the WHTC Morning News. I'm Gary Stevens. Our monthly conversations with Dr. Brian Long, the Director of Supply Management Research at Grand Valley State University, continues. A little later than normal, but circumstances beyond our control kept us apart. Brian, good morning. Hope all is well where you are.
Indeed, it's a bright, sunny morning, but a little on the cool side.
But, well, to a certain extent, that might be reflective a little bit of how maybe I'm being Pollyannic on this, but I see business right now. A little on the cool side, but there are some beams of sunshine coming through. Or am I being looking at things under rose-colored glasses?
Well, our economy in West Michigan has several cyclical industries, automotive being the largest of the employers. And fortunately, automotive is doing okay profit-wise because there's a shortage. But for our local auto parts suppliers, that means a reduced schedule. Now, it means a consistent schedule because the parts are still very much going on automobiles, and automobiles are very much being built, but at a limited rate because of the well-known part shortage that we have, particularly relating to, of course, the chips. We have $15 worth of chips that go into a car, and they can't complete the car without them. And that's holding up the schedules.
Yeah, a little something, causes big things. Another thing that's shortage, and we've had some reports that the lithium-ion battery making people, they just don't have enough building capacity to meet the growing demand. I know that we're getting LG Energy Solutions, big expansion in Holland. Wouldn't be surprised if Johnson Controls does the same thing, but still demand far outpaces the supply now and in the foreseeable future, Brian.
Well, very much so. And this relates to the supply chain, because the supply chain goes all the way back to the proverbial hole in the ground. And one of those components that goes into these lithium-ion batteries is cobalt, the largest source of cobalt in the world. 50% of it comes from the Congo, the Republic of Congo, as we are calling it now. And that means that the rest of the world makes up the other 50%, and there is a shortage there as we continue. In addition to this, the average new electric automobile takes up 150 pounds of copper. So copper is another one of those things that we have lots of in different places in the world, but we don't have it in good concentrations. And so this is holding up our supply chain too, and of course, raising the prices.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the economic situation overall, Brian. A story I have in front of me is Fannie Mae forecasting a modest recession in 2023. Report from the mortgage giant cites inflation and the tightening of monetary policy by the Federal Reserve for making that forecast, and ongoing global impacts from the situation in Ukraine also expected. The recession next year will not be similar in magnitude or duration as to what happened some 13, 14 years ago in 2008. Your thoughts about the R word right now?
Well, the R word is always out there, and at any given time, you'll have somebody forecasting a recession almost every single year. And often these are people from reputable sources, I might add. Now, is JP Morgan correct on this? I don't want to rule them out at this time because, once again, we've got a lot of problems going on in the economy right now. The Fed may be forced to raise interest rates high enough that it will put a crimp on the economy and generate a recession. This is what happened to us in the late 1970s when Paul Volcker just plain cranked the interest rates up to stop inflation. Inflation was absolutely going wild. Faith in the dollar was falling dramatically, and the only way Paul Volcker could save the dollar was to crank up interest rates. Now, if that happens again, well, as the predictions are saying right here, it is possible for us to have a recession in 2023. What we're looking for is, of course, that proverbial soft landing that we always talk about. Can they tighten just to the right amount that we just gradually slow down to the point that everything is copacetic? I don't know that we've ever had any luck doing that, though.
You say you don't know. I'm of the opinion, and maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, Brian. I'm of the opinion once you start the snowball going down, it's kind of tough to gradually slow that snowball going down. And I have a funny feeling, yeah, the R word might be with us, especially big time after the first of the year.
Well, it's the psychological aspect of it that is the most unpredictable thing. People in the 1970s just plain accepted inflation. They expected to pay more every time they went to the pump, every time they bought something in the grocery store. I even had a car dealer tell me that you ought to buy now because the cars are going up $50 to $100 every single month. And so for that reason, people accepted inflation. We haven't had inflation for the last 40 years now. And the current generation just isn't used to it. Along with that is the fact that because of the limited inflation that we had, people were very happy with 1%, 2%, 3% increase in their wages. Well, the labor negotiations that are going on right now, I am told the people are looking very much at the number of 8.5% that just came out and saying, gee, just to break even, we need an 8.5% increase. This, in turn, generates what's sometimes called cost push inflation, which again just makes the problem all that much worse. It snowballs, as you said, and it can snowball uphill, it can snowball downhill too.
Yeah, downhill, it means everything gets clobbered at the at the base of it. And I'm a funny. I hope it doesn't. But I was just thinking when you said that this generation has never seen it. Our generation has seen it. And we've lived through inflation and the like. And it's almost sometimes I get the sense that some people are panicking, saying, oh, my word, what can we do? It's, sky is falling. And, the old, 150 years ago, when the word panic was a normal thing, when the stock market, instead of stock market depression or recession, was flat out stock market panic. I don't know whether or not we're going to get to that again, Brian, but who knows?
Well, that's why before the Great Depression, we didn't have recessions. We had money panics. People ran to the bank and demanded that their deposits be withdrawn, and they wanted it in gold or silver. And of course, the banks failed when that happened. And we had a number of money panics that in part led to the development of the Federal Reserve in the early part of the 20th century. Of course, this means that in today's world, we have some stability associated with our system because of the Federal Reserve. And a lot of people don't appreciate that. The Federal Reserve works very hard every day just to keep our currency stable. They add to the money supply, they subtract from the money supply just based on what's going on in the markets. For instance, around Christmas time, they add more money to the supply of money. And that's necessary because of what's going on as far as transactions are concerned. April 15th, a whole bunch of people write checks. They have to be ready for that. That's why these cyber currencies are not good places to park your money, because you don't know how much that money is going to be worth. It could be double in a year. It could be 50% in a year. But our currency is a stable currency because of the Federal Reserve. And a lot of people don't appreciate that. And I might add, all the major countries of the world have a central bank now that stabilizes their currencies.
One final thing, Dr. Brian Long. Oh, don't get me started into crypto. That's for another day. Okay. I let's just say I don't know much about it, and I'd rather, not talk about things that I'm ignorant about, even though some people think I talk about things I'm ignorant about anyway. But anyway, one final thing, and again, this might not be up your particular alley. Dr. Brian Long is, of course, the Director of Supply Management Research at Grand Valley State University. What he does for the most part, or shall we say the most visible part, is he canvasses purchasing managers in Kalamazoo and in Grand Rapids to comprise his current business trend monthly update, focusing on manufacturing and employment, but other things as well, just to see what the trends are in the West Michigan economy. So with that as a background, Brian, I will ask you this as sort of a man of economy and a man of money. A story we had from our wires earlier this week: more retirees are losing faith in Social Security. According to the Employment Benefit Research Institute, less than half of retired workers believe Social Security will be able to keep providing the same benefits in the future. And at its current rate, the most recent trustee report says Social Security trust funds will run dry by 2034. Congress has a decade to try to work on that. Again, maybe it's not totally in your expertise, but how worried should we be about right now the Social Security system, Brian?
Well, we should be concerned about it because the average person takes out more than they put in, including the interest on the money that they put in. People think that they put into it and they're taking out what is theirs. And they're taking out what's theirs plus another 30% or so. And this has been going on for some time. Obviously, we had some revisions in the system back over 30 years ago that helped. This is why the retirement age keeps creeping up a little bit. Started with 65, and they kept adding months and months and months. And now we're up 67, 68. As far as the retirement age is concerned. And that trend will probably continue, but we need another one of those bipartisan conventions to get together to say, what are we going to do about saving the Social Security system? Otherwise, it has to come out of the budget that is already there. It's a Ponzi scheme. They don't like us to say that, but people are putting money in and they're taking more money out. And the current people are paying for the people that are retired right now. And 2035 is about when the whole thing catches up. And part of it has to do with the demographic, that there's a whole bunch of us baby boomers or whatever that are retiring now and are going to continue to retire almost en masse. And there isn't enough of the younger generation to, unfortunately, make up the difference. The demographic just doesn't match. So that is the consideration on it. But the bipartisan concept that happened back 30 years ago, boy, we're a long way from that right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. You are definitely right about that. Dr. Brian Long, as always, we appreciate the time talking a little about the economy, and hopefully we get back to our normal routine, and we'll chat next month about your survey for the last 2 weeks in April and a look ahead to the spring. And hopefully we'll be springing into some good economic times. Brian, thank you.
Pleasure again.